Today we're looking at open world games, or games with an open world feel, that you can play on the Switch and Switch 2. This list includes both classic open world games with massive maps, and games that, while not technically open world, offer a sense of freedom and exploration. So, the important thing here isn't how big the map is, but how free it feels while playing. Now let's move on to the games. Kunitsu-Gami Path of the Goddess is a game that feels like an open world on Switch 2, but it does so through habitable spaces rather than a massive map. It doesn't offer a single vast world. Instead, it constructs each region as a self-contained living space. During the day, you must purify villages, settle people, and plan defenses. At night, every preparation is put to the test. The game isn't played solely through reflexes, but through thought. Who stands where, which path to defend, and which areas are riskiest are all left to the player's discretion. This transforms the game from a simple action experience into an open-world game with a strong strategic edge. The art design doesn't skimp on realism, but it excels at establishing atmosphere. The story is told through the environment, not dialogue. The village's transformation over time and the world's gradual shaping are all part of this narrative. Performance is stable, and the control scheme is simple yet deep. It offers a different alternative for those seeking an open world but bored by idle running around. Star Wars Outlaws is one of the games that truly lives up to the open world hype on the Switch 2, because it feels like you're not just a character performing a mission, but rather someone wandering the galaxy. You're not confined to a single map. You roam freely between different planets, port cities, rural areas, and crime hotspots. The game doesn't constantly chain you to the main mission. You can get side hustled in one place and get into trouble in another. The fact that the main character isn't a Jedi pushes the game towards a more realistic dimension. You need cunning, not strength. The balance of stealth, combat, and escape is well established. Whether you proceed silently or draw a gun, the world feels alive, not cardboard. The Switch 2 version is visually simpler than the higher-end console versions, but the atmosphere, lighting, and environmental design truly capture the Star Wars feel. Performance is stable, and maps flow smoothly without any loading delays. In short, this game isn't a tour through the Star Wars universe, but rather an adventure lived there.
The barrier is still up. There are 2 more generators. On our right.
I'm on it!
Assassin's Creed Shadows on Switch 2 presents feudal Japan not as a map to be explored, but as a truly immersive period. As you navigate the game, you're not just chasing quests. The layout of the villages, the placement of the castles, and the influence of nature constantly remind you of your location. The map is vast, but it doesn't stretch aimlessly, nor does it feel like a wasteland. As you move from one area to the next, the tone, the atmosphere, and even your gameplay can change. While moving silently with a stealthy character feels like a different game, the samurai side is more direct, harsher, and confrontational. The game doesn't force you to play like this. Whichever approach you adopt completely changes the experience. The Switch 2 version lags behind more powerful platforms graphically, but this doesn't detract from the spirit of the world. The lighting, the sense of distance, and the environmental design are the key elements that carry the game. Performance-wise, there aren't any major issues, and being able to run a game of this scale on a portable device is already a valuable asset. Turbo Overkill was one of the games on the Switch that gave me the most open-world feeling, and even though the map wasn't a single piece, I didn't mind at all. The city feels like a living place. You can enter a building and exit through a back door, or pass through a narrow passageway into a vast industrial zone. The game doesn't force you to go here, you go where you're curious. The real highlight is the movement system. Sliding, running on walls, and slashing at enemies with saw legs become reflexes after a while. The weapons are satisfying, but the game doesn't limit you to a single style. You play however you like. While the performance can stutter a bit, the sense of speed, the music, and the atmosphere didn't let that bother me too much. The story isn't particularly deep, but the world is full of character. Amidst the neon lights, dark streets, and chaos, you'll find yourself saying, "I'm here." If you're tired of slow, empty, wandering open-world games, this game delivers a real sense of open-world freedom. It's not a rote game, it requires reflexes, and that's what makes it fun. Yakuza 0 Director's Cut, one of those games that depicts an open world not in kilometers but in density, finds a clear presence on the Switch 2. The question of how big is the map is meaningless here, because a single street in Kamurocho or Sotenbori can be as action-packed as another game's entire map. Cities aren't designed like showcases, but like a truly functioning system. Accessible locations, side quests, small stories emanating from the alleys, and absurd minigames, the game establishes its own rhythm. The director's cut expands the narrative even further with new scenes and additional content, and the English dub makes the experience more accessible on the Switch for the first time. While the combat system may seem simple, the different styles allow even the same fight to be played differently. Performance is strong on the Switch too. The 60 FPS target ensures a smooth flow in both handheld and docked mode. While the graphics aren't a showpiece, the atmosphere, lighting, and urban feel make up for the lack of it. Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment offers a strong alternative on Switch 2 for those who appreciate open-world games but prefer not to just wander around for hours. While the game may not technically have a classic open-world structure, the sheer size of the battlefields, the scattered missions, and the lack of a single confined space prevent it from feeling like a closed-in game. Areas constantly open up, threats come from different directions, and you're not just a character advancing, you're someone moving at the heart of a battle. The Switch 2 aspect is the most critical aspect, because at this scale, enemy hordes, explosions, and effects would have been a drag on older hardware. But here, they flow smoothly. The view range is wide, enemies don't reload slowly, and the area doesn't suddenly empty. Even when the stage is crowded in the handheld, the game doesn't stall or lose control. The difference with the Switch 2 isn't that it looks better, but that combat is truly controllable. You can read the entire map and understand what's happening everywhere. Daemon X Machina. Titanic Scion is a game that builds the Switch 2's open-world feel on free-roaming skies rather than walking. Here, freedom isn't about walking on the map, but about flying wherever you want in a giant mecha. Maps are divided into vast biomes, featuring plains, mountains, industrial zones, and underground facilities, and these don't just provide the setting, they also transform the gameplay. In open spaces, you explore rather than pursue missions. There are patrolling enemies, hidden weapons, resource points, and unexpected encounters. Mecha customization is the backbone of the game. Weapon type, armor weight, speed, and maneuverability directly impact performance. Just as you can play the same mission with a heavy war machine, you can also build a light and fast structure and perform hit and runs. The biggest difference on the Switch 2 is its ability to present these scaled environments with reasonable fluidity. There are no loading delays, area transitions aren't sharp, and the view range isn't obstructed when playing handheld. While the visual quality isn't as impressive as on higher-end consoles, the sense of worldliness remains. Come on! Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, on the Switch 2, presents an open world with cleverly designed areas instead of massive maps. Here, the freedom isn't so much a go wherever I want mentality as it is a I'll get there when the time is right one. The game doesn't hold your hand and guide you. You learn which doors open and when, which paths become possible with which abilities. This makes the world less of a predetermined area, but one that must be gradually unraveled. The most noticeable difference on the Switch 2 is the control and fluidity. Aiming is more precise, the visuals are cleaner, and areas aren't marred by textures that appear later. The Joy-Con's mouse-like control system provides a clear comfort in the FPS world. The visuals don't rival those of higher-end consoles, but there's no loss of quality that would spoil the atmosphere. The game progresses by teaching the player free movement within its own logic, without overwhelming them with a list of tasks. Split Fiction isn't a classic open-world game. It's a scene-by-scene adventure built around two-player co-op rather than free roaming. The game's main attraction is that two characters experience the same world differently. One player can solve puzzles while the other tackles the action. One can platform and manipulate the environment. The world isn't designed like a giant map to be explored, but rather like a stage played out collaboratively. The game constantly demands communication and harmony between players. You can't solve it alone, and one can't progress without the other. While it's atmospheric, it won't appeal to those who expect free roaming. The experience is built more on a let's solve it together mentality than a let's wander. Therefore, it's a game for those looking for an adventure based on story and teamwork rather than an open world. Tomb Raider Definitive Edition on Switch and Switch 2 derives its open-world feel not from a massive map, but from the feeling of being trapped within a single island. Here, freedom isn't shaped by the question of, I can run wherever I want, but rather, how do I escape from here? The game doesn't lock you into narrow corridors. It offers different paths through forests, mountain passes, caves, and abandoned structures. Side tombs, secret areas, and exploration points aren't mandatory. They're entirely optional, and this naturally expands the gameplay. The biggest difference on the Switch 2 side is the technical fluidity. Area transitions are cleaner, loading times are shorter, and there are no sudden cuts in the image. Distance is clearer in docked mode, and readability remains intact when playing handheld. While it may not be next-gen in terms of graphics, its performance is secure and comfortable. This game builds on the sense of space, not the size of the map. The island you're trying to escape from soon becomes a place you've truly memorized. The common thread among the games on this list isn't the sheer size of the map, but the sense of freedom it offers. Some are truly open world, others just feel that way, but they're all essential experiences for Switch and Switch 2. Share your favorites in the comments. Don't forget to leave a comment if you'd like to see other lists.
Come on!